What's going on, my PT peeps, my Walking Dead family, and my fighters? I'm One Eyebrow, also known as PT. You don't know if I'm winking or I'm blinking, but I'm definitely thinking about The Walking Dead. And is Shane Walsh a hero or a villain, or both? Spoiler warning for all things Walking Dead, show, comics, all that stuff. Spoiler warning for The Walking Dead. But I love talking about Shane every couple of years because Shane is a debatable character still. Some people love him, hate him, think he was a villain, think he was complicated. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. Post your comments below. And before I give you my take, please hit the subscribe button, guys, if you haven't already. If you have, thank you very much. We truly appreciate it. We need your help to achieve the goal of 100,000 subscribers, and we're getting closer every day. Hit the join button, become a valued member of our PT channel Walking Dead family, and make sure you ring the bell to be notified when we post videos every day. Now, a couple years ago, this was made by Skybound. It was a villains bracket pool. And the best villain of all times was Shane Walsh, according to this bracket pool. Do you agree? And it was Shane versus the governor, and not Shane versus Negan. Shane actually beat Negan in the semifinals. But do you love him or hate him or don't think much of him? And it's crazy to think that Shane died in season 2 and we're coming up, well, when season 10 episode 16 finally airs, on season 11 eventually. But what if Shane was still alive? The show would have been so different. Or what if Shane actually lived longer than season 2? I would have loved for Shane to exist much longer on the show than he did. Maybe he went away and he came back. But I love the idea of Shane sticking around until Alexandria. Maybe the Negan lineup is when he was taken out. What if Negan took out Shane instead of Abraham? Or what if Negan took Shane instead of Daryl? Would have been interesting to see. But of course that didn't happen. I always say I would have loved to have Shane and Andrea go away and then come back at some point. Maybe they come to the prison. Maybe they come to Alexandria. Maybe Shane and Andrea join a different group and there's a whole different story arc for the show. But again, we never saw that. Well, Shane came and went in season 1 and season 2. He was around early on in the show and he was a big part of the show. I mean, he is a character that was connected with so many story arcs. Rick, Lori, Carl, Dale, Andrea, Herschel's farm, Otis, and so on. Whether you like Shane or not, Shane was partners with Rick. And there's no doubt in my mind that Shane cared about Rick. He probably cared about Lori too, but in a different way, you know what I'm saying? But Shane cared about Rick like partners do. Police officers share a brotherhood. They share, love for their partner. Maybe not all the time, but I would assume so. And that's what I feel the case here was with Rick and Shane. And Shane saved Rick. Whether you like it or not, Rick could have been taken out by Shane right here, and maybe Rick dies, and Shane takes over the group, and we never see Rick again. But Shane put a stretcher in front of the door. If he didn't, maybe the soldiers come in and take Rick out and we never see Rick again, but that didn't happen and we have the Rick Grimes story for The Walking Dead show, just like the comic. And the best thing about Shane is that he's complicated. He does good things, bad things, he has love for Rick, he's there for Rick, but he does the dirty work, right? Everybody needs that in a group, maybe to different degrees for sure, but Shane was all about protecting the group that he was with, protecting Lori and Carl. Coral. What if this never happened? Then you couldn't say that Shane was a bad guy at all. Well, maybe he doesn't attack Rick, maybe he does, but Shane and Lori were together. Lori's to blame just as much as Shane was. Shane getting with Lori is terrible because Rick was alive, right? It wasn't that long that Rick was in the hospital, by the way. Shane and Lori moved on pretty quickly. They were like, Rick's gone, let's get it on, right? But if Shane doesn't get with Lori, there's really not a lot for people to say. Well, Rick would never do that, and you got with your partner's wife, and this is that, and that's the biggest thing that people bring up, and they're very valid points, but what if that never happened? But it did, so we have to say it. Shane leading the group was definitely a thing that I believe Shane wanted to lead. When Rick came back around, he was like, I don't know if you're the right leader for this group, for this world. And you could see the writing was great. Shane, Lori, Rick, Lori, who's the father, Shane, Lori, Rick, so many things that brought up, and it was great writing. The early seasons of The Walking Dead, there's a lot of big stuff to it, and it was good. It was kind of like a soap opera feel, like who's the father? What is she going to do? What are they going to do? But when Rick and Shane fought, that was really the big time. It started probably earlier, but when Shane and Rick actually came to blows and started fighting, it was like, all right, it's going down. I don't see these two making it out because I thought they would kill each other. One would kill each other in this fight, but they both survived and they moved on with it somewhat. And really the biggest turning point for a lot of people was when Shane and Otis went to get the medical supplies. That was really the big start of Shane turning into the villain. And if Shane doesn't do what he did with Otis, Carl probably doesn't live. But do you think that Shane had to take Otis out? I don't know. I mean, I would assume that it was close, but Carl doesn't live without these medical supplies. And if Shane and Otis both come back, then it's okay, right? But this is a zombie apocalypse, and Shane is complicated. He would do all the things he has to do, make the tough decisions, and taking out Otis to get away, he would do. I'm not sure if Rick would, if Glenn would. I don't know how this would go with any other character, but you know Shane is the type of guy that would take out this guy Otis, and really it's Otis's fault. I know it was an accident, but if Otis doesn't shoot the deer and the bullet doesn't hit Carl, then they're not in this situation. So I'm sure Otis felt responsible for it. I mean, if Otis didn't do what happened there, and it wasn't his fault, he didn't mean to do it by any means, but it's kind of some sort of connecting point where Otis kind of brought this in the situation, and Shane was like, all right, I got to survive somehow, because if they're both overrun and they both die at the school, the trip is a bust and Carl dies anyway. But Shane is like, I got to get back. I don't trust Otis to make it back. And maybe they both could have made it back, just like in the Titanic. Both could have been on the door, but you know, it is what it is. But Shane is a complicated character. He's one of the most complicated characters. Between Shane and Negan, who do you think's more complicated? Or complex? Or whatever you'd like to call it. And whether you like him, love him, hate him, Shane was great for the show. And imagine if Shane wasn't there. What would we have been watching? It wouldn't have been as great as it was early on in season 1 and season 2 without Shane. And no one's going to complain about Shane beating up Ed or Shane shooting the walkers by the barn, right? I mean, maybe they will. But when Shane and Rick fought, it was great for the show. What side were you on, and who do you think won the fight? I have my views on it. I personally think Shane had Rick in a precarious situation when he threw the police motorcycle on his leg, and he could have took out Rick right there. But later on in the season, Rick and Shane came face to face. Rick was in full hero mode, and Shane was in full villain mode, and Shane wanted to take out Rick right here. But he couldn't do it, and the story continued on with Rick. Basically, just like in the comic, Rick and Shane come face to face. It's a little different on the show. Carl puts down a zombified or a walker Shane. Instead of Carl comes in and takes out Shane, who was living. Carl protects Rick in the comic. Well, Carl saves Rick in the comic and the show. It's just if Shane is a walker or not when it happens. But what do you think, guys? Hero or villain? I personally think he's both. He's definitely got the hero aspects, the villain aspects, but I wouldn't call Shane a full-blown villain. He had some villain tendencies, especially at the end of season 2, and he probably went out as a villain, but he did a lot of heroic things, that's for sure. Let me know your thoughts. Post your comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and if you want to help support the channel, I have a book series, Fight For Us, available on Amazon in paperback and digital format. Hope you join the fight and pick up your copy today. Stay safe, and we love you guys.
No, we love you guys.